Hey guys, I'm so excited to be back with you and talk to you guys about our next to last lesson leading up to the resurrection of Jesus. And I hope you've been enjoying our lessons and you've had a chance to watch these with your friends in your homes. And I'm sure missing all of your fun, smiley faces, but I'm so glad that we're able to at least join together in this way. Now, I want us to think back through what we've already learned about that time leading up to Jesus's death and resurrection. We have already learned about how he came into the city with his royal entry. We have already learned about that. We've also learned about his teaching at the temple. And last week we learned about the plot against Jesus. Now that was very hard to hear, how someone would betray or choose to put themselves ahead of what was Jesus was calling them to do. And we learned that with Judas. But today we are going to see how all the things that we've talked about have been leading up and being part of God's plan for Jesus and their plan for us, really. Today we're going to learn about what we call the Last Supper. Now, this is something that we see in many paintings and pictures. We see this in lots of art forms, and it's really something that is very special to us as believers today. So I know if you go to church, let's think about this. If you get to go to church with your family or with your home, this may even be something that you've seen happen in your church. And we're going to learn about why we do something very similar to what we see Jesus doing right here. Now, this is actually Jesus' last night with his disciples. And that's why we call it the Last Supper. But it was actually a very special supper. It was actually a dinner that they had together to celebrate a special Jewish feast. And it's called the Passover. And this actually reminds me of what we've learned in the past in the Old Testament. Now, these stories of Jesus we've been talking about every week are from the New Testament. But remember how we talked about how the Old Testament told us about Jesus' coming? Well, this actually connects back to one of the stories we've learned before. We have talked before about how the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. And we talked about how God delivered those people through Moses, and how they had special things that they had to do to prepare themselves for Moses to take them out of slavery. And one of the things they had to do was they had to prepare this special meal and be ready to leave, and to prepare this meal and even the blood of the lamb to go over their door. And when they did this, it allowed the death angel to pass over their home. Now, this was something that was very special to the Jewish people, and they celebrated it every year because they wanted to remember what God had done for them, and that's called their Passover. Now, we know that Jesus was Jewish, and so he would have celebrated this just like everyone else, and that's what we see right here in this Last Supper. You see, he and his friends were preparing to have this special celebration. And he gave those disciples very special instructions of where to find the upper room for them and where to find the location of their items that they needed. And when they gathered together that night, they had a special time of what it would have been their Jewish celebration. But then Jesus did something very unique. And he established right then something that was going to be a new covenant, a new ritual with his people. And this is where we get what we call our communion, or the Lord's Supper, taken after what he did that night. And that night, he took some of the items that they had there, which would have been their juice or wine that they had that night. And he started to take that, and he took the bread that they had there, and he took that and set it apart into something that was going to be special for his people. So as he was eating, he first took the bread, and he took it, and he broke it, and he started telling them that he was going to be broken just like this bread was broken. Now, I'm sure that was very odd for them to hear that, because I'm sure they were very confused. But he took the bread, he passed it to them, and he said, I want you to eat this in remembrance of me. And then he took the wine that he had right there. He took it, he shared it with them, and he said for them to drink it in remembrance of him. And he said, this is my body and this is my blood. Now, I am sure that when he said that, he was confusing the disciples because they didn't understand what he was getting ready to do. But see, when this is now written in the Bible, it says as an example for us of one of those things we can do to remember him. You know, we have things all around our lives that we set apart to remember things. Think of my wedding ring. I wear it as a symbol to show others that I am married. You know, I have pictures of my wedding, and when I look at those, it reminds me of that, because that's something that's very special to me, and I want everyone around me to know that I'm married and know that that's special. And see, that's what Jesus was doing for us. He was setting this apart as a way for us to remember what he did for us. And it's a way for us to all share in that together. Even now, thousands of years after his death, we can still understand and be a part of what he did for us and setting that time apart as remembrance. And so see, that's something we do today because of something he did then. And we learn about that in the New Testament, and actually quite a few of the New Testament books, which we've been talking about, are our Gospels, which are our good news books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And so you can find and read some more about this. But I know that this is something that you've probably seen before, and if not, then ask your caregivers if they'll look that up for you, and they'll show you what it looks like. In some places, they have the little wafers, because it is unleavened, because that goes back to the Passover meal and how they had to be very quick and ready to go. So they didn't have time to make the bread rise and have time for that to wait. But then it also has a representation for us too about there was no sin in there. There was no yeast in there. It was a special kind of bread. But we have ours that we do are look like crackers. Your church may have circles, but that doesn't matter. It's what we're doing in remembrance of him. Some places have large cups, some have the little cups, but depending on how your church does that, it's still the same remembrance for what Jesus did for us. And this was Jesus' last night with those disciples when he leaves from this special meal, where he not only shares in a meal, but he washes the disciples' feet. He talks to them about what's about to happen, but see, their hearts can't understand. And within just a few hours, he's arrested. And the plan that God had from the very beginning is now in motion. And we're going to see some pretty hard, dark hours, but still part of God's plan for us. Now, I know that it's very hard for us not to be together, especially when we have such a solemn message for us to reflect on and to think about what Jesus has done for us. It's so good to have that, and it's so good to be able to have these messages together, but it is hard not to be able to sit around and sing together, but we can have our prayer time and we can share that together. So like we've been doing every week, I want to just have a few minutes to stop and to just reflect on those things we want to pray for. Because, you know, God hears those, and it's like we're saying one big prayer together. So I want you to just take a couple minutes. I want you to lift up those things that you are worried about, things you want to share with us, some things that we can pray together for. Dear Lord, I'm so thankful for our technology and our ability to be able to have these lessons and be able to share these things together. And I just thank you so much for this Easter season and for the time for us to stop and learn and just focus on what you've done for us. And I thank you for that. Thank you for just the restoration it brings and how it brings us back to you. And I just thank you for our special friends and for what they mean to me, what they mean to our family. And I thank you for giving them such wonderful caregivers that allow them to stay safe and to be able to just be healthy and to be cared for, and to also be able to listen to these lessons and to learn about you as well. And Lord, I just pray that you watch over them, keep them safe, protect them during such a strange time, and help them to just be encouraged by these lessons and just be reminded of your love for them. In your awesome and holy name I pray, amen. Now guys, you still have another March craft to do today. And I know that next week starts April. So next week, you will actually have a special Easter goodie bag that your caregivers can give you. And it's going to have some special Easter treats and some Easter things for you. And then next Friday, you can go ahead and start with your April crafts, and you will have enough April crafts to take you through the whole month of April. And then at the end of April, we will get some more May crafts for you guys to do. So this is your last March craft, and next week you get to have fun Easter goodies. And until next week,